feel the salt roughening your skin as the boat rocks slowly beneath your tired feet, the scorching sun burning your back without mercy. The strong smell of sea air blends with the stench of rotting fish drifting in the breeze, while your calloused hands grip the damp, rough ropes tightly, repeating the endless motion of adjusting the sails. Waves break rhythmically against the hull, bringing the constant sound of cold, churning water that lulls your thoughts into a weary ache. Before you, the red surface of the sea looks calm, but you know the sharks circle silently, waiting for the slightest sign of weakness. The tension rises in your skin as your eyes follow the horizon line, where a ship approaches, its threatening silhouette sending a cold wave of fear through you. The heavy experience of protecting yourself from attacks and the constant vigilance are part of this cruel existence. Each repeated task, pulling ropes, polishing the harpoon, deepens your dull alertness, while the smell of cannon smoke far away rises on the air, reminding you that true danger lies not only in the sea, but also in the men crossing your path with deadly intentions. The silence around you carries weight, a dense quiet that presses upon your skin even before the first ray of sun catches the water's edge. The air tastes of salt, mixed with something older, something menacing hidden beneath the surface. Your body absorbs every sense, the rough scrape of rope fibers against your blistered palms, the slow creak of wooden planks beneath your boots, the distant cry of seabirds circling lazily overhead. The dawn's pale blue leaks hesitantly across the horizon, color drained like a memory, fading into the morning fog. You notice the slight tremble in your fingers, a near imperceptible quiver that betrays the exhaustion settling deep in your bones. The routine never changes. The rocking boat demands your attention. The sails must be trimmed again and again, despite the bone-deep fatigue. You trace the damp rope with your fingertips, feeling the coarse weave, the salt crystals accumulated from countless waves crashing. The sea offers its relentless rhythm, endless, pulsing, indifferent. In moments like these, you think how today's worries seem paltry, like a dead phone battery in a world wired for constant connection. Back then, watching your last ember of fire turn to ash felt as devastating as losing your own shadow. For a brief heartbeat, the warmth around the small, sputtering flame on the deck brings shared relief, your crewmate's silent presence offering a slender thread of comfort amidst the harshness. The salty breeze carries a faint murmur from their movements, a chorus of careful breaths and shifting gear. But beneath that fragile peace, an unspoken tension coils tighter. You sense it in the sudden stillness, as if the sea itself holds its breath. The dog's barking stops abruptly somewhere on the distant shore. Neighboring eyes lock in a glance sharp enough to cut through the thickening quiet. A shadow falls heavier now across the horizon, before the quiet swells into something more, before the dangerous silhouette crossing your path reveals its true intent. You are caught between what you must endure and what lies just beyond sight. Where are you listening from, and what time is it there? Your interaction keeps this little corner of calm alive. Thanks for being part of it. You tighten your grip on the rope once more, the fibers rough and biting at your palms as the boat wobbles beneath you, its wooden ribs creaking softly with each slow roll. The early morning air clings to your skin, salt cooling where the sun has yet to claim it, but the promise of heat is already heavy, sinking into your bones with a weight you can't shake. Every breath you take carries the sharp taste of sea spray, mixed with the faint, lingering scent of old smoke, a reminder of the battles that once echoed across this water. Your eyes trace the horizon line again, restless despite the exhaustion burrowing deeper into your limbs. A tremor passes through your fingers, subtle, like the whisper of cold water lapping against the hull, but it carries a message louder than any shout. Vigilance must not slip. You can almost hear the quiet murmur of the sea, speaking in a language only the boat and you understand. A slow, steady pulse beneath the surface, so steady it threatens to lull your senses into careless calm. But your hand, steady and deliberate, pulls the rope tighter, the strands coarse, familiar. The salty granules embedded in the fibers prick at your skin, each twist and turn a reminder of the relentless dance you've rehearsed countless times. Slowly, you shift your stance. The rough wood beneath your boots squeaks in protest, a noise that would seem harsh in any other place, but here is just another part of the endless rhythm around you. Your eyes catch the faint shimmer of a ripple far off to the side, where the water shimmers in a muted silver under the shy morning light. Your breath falters for a heartbeat, that small sign of life breaking the smooth surface. Sharks, silent and shadowed, move beneath the tide, their presence an unyielding truth. Circling, watching, your pulse hammers, not with panic, but with the sharp edge of alertness. A reminder of how fragile this precarious balance is. The sails above you billow softly in the breeze, their canvas creaking as you ease a slackline, fingers numb yet precise. Each motion is slow, calmed by habit but sharp as a blade. The air carries a mixture of smells, the bitter sting of tar, the sweet hint of blossoming trees from distant shores, and the metallic tang of rust edging the iron fittings along the boat's frame. This olfactory mosaic paints a scene more vivid than any sight, grounding you in the moment even as your mind drifts toward the approaching ship. Its dark form growing steadily larger against the sky's pastels. A faint call reaches your ears, muffled by distance, but unmistakable. A bird's cry that cracks the quiet like a brittle shard. Somewhere below deck, a crewmate shifts restlessly, their presence barely more than a whisper. You sense their unease, a shadow reflecting the tightening coil inside your own chest. The air seems to thicken now, as if the horizon itself stretches and breathes heavy, pausing to watch. That sharp tension curls up, inching higher along your spine, settling there like a persistent chill. The dogs barking, which had filled the night air with restless energy, has ceased, swallowed by this looming silence. Your fingers return again to the harpoon lying beside you, its wooden shaft worn smooth by countless hands, the metal tip catching a glint of dawn's hesitant light. You trace its contours with a slow, careful touch, appreciating the cold weight, the balance that has kept you alive more times than memory readily admits. The ritual of polishing the weapon becomes a meditation, each stroke deliberate and rhythmic, the dry leather strip sliding over the cool steel, the soft scratch filling the quiet spaces aboard. Time stretches thin here. Minutes bleed into one another, like watercolors dissolving on wet paper. You glance at the ship, edging ever closer, a silhouette that merges sharply with the early light, a dark promise carved against the soft blush of sky. The tension escalates, but not in frantic bursts. It is a slow, tightening coil, a watchful pause, the world holding its breath with you, the muted howl of wind threads through the ropes overhead, carrying with it a distant pungency of gunpowder and rusted metal, ghosts from those burns and battles no one speaks of aloud anymore. A small flicker of warmth reaches you from the hearth, still smoldering near the stern, its faint orange glow flickering shyly through the creeping morning, offering a fragile comfort. It is a hint of life, a single ember resisting the cold bite of dawn, a reminder that despite everything, you endure. The boat creaks again beneath your boots, swaying gently with the sea's unyielding beat, your eyes scanning every inch of the approaching threat. Then, unexpectedly, a shadow detaches itself from the shape of the ship, a smaller boat cutting swiftly through the water, its movement deliberate and unnervingly quiet. Your heart thuds heavily through your chest, the rhythmic pulse of the boat now matched by the wild thunder of your blood. The smaller vessel cuts the space between worlds, between the relentless sea and the fragile safety your craft offers. In that suspended moment, all you can do is hold fast. The ropes bite deeper into your skin, the smell of salt and smoke fusing in the cool morning air, the distant cries fading into a hushed stillness that is somehow louder than any noise before. And as the smaller boat nears, skimming through the silver-cast waves toward you, your gaze locks on a figure at its helm, hood drawn low, eyes glinting with a secret that promises the tide is about to turn. You tighten your grip as the smaller boat glides toward you, the water parting silently beneath its slender hull. The morning light is hesitant but steady, casting a pale glow over the restless sea. Your heart pulses in. Time with the gentle creaks of the wooden boat beneath your feet, each groan a slow echo of the ocean's breath beneath the rising sun. The ropes twist, cold and unyielding in your palms, their rough texture grounding you as the silence thickens, heavy and expectant. Your eyes lock onto the figure at the helm, shrouded in a dark hood, the outline barely distinct against the gray-blue haze of dawn. The boat cuts through the silver reflections of the waves with unnerving ease, closing the fragile distance between safety and the unknown. The scent of salt and old smoke mingles as the smaller vessel approaches, carrying with it a faint metallic tang, a reminder of iron, of tools sharpened for purposes both benign and deadly. The rhythm of the sea lulls around you, but beneath it, a sharp pulse of tension threads through the air. Your hands move almost automatically, fingers tracing the coarse fibers of the rope again, pulling taut and steady, despite the numbness beginning to set in. The dampness clings like a second skin, salt crystals rough against your scarred palms, stitching a slow pattern of sting with every twist. The wooden planks beneath your boots creak softly as the boat shifts with a lazy roll, timed to the slow breath of the ocean's undercurrent. You shift your weight, senses alive with the faintest sounds, the distant cries of seabirds gliding over the shimmering horizon, the distant slap of waves against the smaller craft's side. The hushed calls of your crewmates slice through the quiet now and then, a barely perceptible rustle of shifting weight and uncertain movements below deck. The air feels thick, heavy with anticipation, as if the sea itself holds its breath with you, waiting for the moment when the fragile calm will shatter. The figure in the boat makes no sudden move. Instead, the small vessel drifts closer, the water parting in soft ripples around its hull, silver and cold beneath the untouched surface. You see the narrowing gap, and, with deliberate care, your fingers slide along the polished wood of the harpoon resting beside you. The metal is cool and steady, its weight a silent encouragement in your hand. The familiar ritual of polishing the shaft, inhaling the faint scent of worn leather wrapped around its grip, steadies your breath, calms the quiet storm of nerves brewing in your chest. A breeze stirs the sails above, their canvas billowing with a dreamy creak that speaks of slow, unending motion. You let the smallest fraction of your focus drift to the vast liquid expanse beyond, calm and merciless, feeling the steady pulse of waves like a heartbeat beneath the hull, endless and indifferent. The scent of the sea blends with something else now, something less natural. Smoke, faint and distant, bitter and dry, threading its way from a far-off battle remembered only in echoes. Your gaze flickers back to the approaching boat. The figure's hood shifts slightly, revealing a flash of eyes that glint sharp and unreadable. A subtle signal, barely a movement, but it sends a shiver up your spine. The tension coils tighter, slow, deliberate, a muted threat beneath the monotonous sounds of water and rope. You sense the delicate balance, poised on the edge of unfolding. The deck beneath you creaks again, a wood whisper echo in the fragile morning light. You breathe in the sharp mix of salt, tar, and a faint metallic scent of rusted chain, feeling the coarse grain of the rope wrap around your fingers once more, its texture as familiar as your own skin. The dog's barking from shore remains absent, swallowed by this uncanny stillness that hangs over the sea like a thin veil. The crewmates' movements grow more measured now, their presence sensed rather than seen. A chorus of quiet breaths mingling with the soft swish of ropes sliding through worn blocks. The fragile ember, glowing near the stern, flickers tentatively, its warmth a small island of life amid the cold. The smaller boat edges dangerously close, its silhouette crisp against the morning haze, a dark shape moving with intent. The shadow at the helm lifts a slow hand, gloved and hesitant, reaching toward a coiled line stretched taut beside them. You follow every detail, the taut rope, the subtle shift of weight, the glint of metal caught by the nascent light. Time seems to spread and stretch as the silent promise of action waits just at the cusp. The sea's rhythm pulses heavily beneath your boots, the endless, indifferent wash of waves holding both threat and refuge. You feel the sharpness of the moment in every nerve, the cold bite of the salt-laden wind, the slow scrape of rope fibers against your fingers, the distant, muted cries of seabirds, framed against the unbearable stillness of the breath held between heartbeats. Then, as the shadow leans forward, the figure's eyes catch a stray glimmer from the harpoon's polished tip. A faint smile touches their lips, unseen but somehow felt. The silent exchange hangs in the air, heavier than the pounding of your blood. The small boat drifts just a breath away, and for a fleeting instant, the horizon seems to stretch endlessly into the unknown. You tighten your grasp on the rope, steady as the tide, your breath slow and measured. The dawn light spills like liquid silver over the waves, shimmering, endless, indifferent. And in that stillness, the figure at the helm whispers a single word, a sound that dissolves into the sea breeze, barely heard, but charged with the weight of everything to come. You tighten your grip, feeling the coarse rope biting deeper into your skin as the smaller boat closes the fragile distance between the two vessels. The cold morning light casts everything in pale blues and grays, the sea reflecting the sky's hesitance in slow, shimmering waves. The scent of salt mingles with that faint metallic edge lingering on the air, a reminder of sharpened tools and old battles fading just out of reach. Your breath comes steady each inhale, tasting like the relentless spray of seawater and the lingering ghost of smoke carried faintly on an indifferent breeze. The wooden planks beneath your boots creak quietly with the boat's subtle sway. Each groan feels like a secret whispered between the ocean and the fragile craft you cling to. Your gaze remains fixed on the figure at the helm, their hood shadowing eyes that glint like dark glass in the desolate dawn. Time stretches slow, every heartbeat lingering just beneath the surface, a taut string pulled tight against the rising tension that coils around you like the salt-wet ropes in your hands. A soft ripple parts the water as the smaller boat drifts closer, its prow cutting a narrow path through the silver-coated waves. The faint slap of water against the hull carries like a whispered warning, fragile yet unyielding. Your fingers trace over the harpoon nearby, feeling its worn wood and cool metal. The familiar weight, a fragile anchor for your restless mind. The ritual of polishing the shaft, slow and deliberate, calms the racing storm of thoughts that seek to unravel your focus. Around you, the crewmates move with quiet precision below deck, a gentle chorus of restrained breaths and the faintest scrape of cloth against wood. Their presence lingers like a shadow, unseen but deeply felt, wrapping around the silence like a protective shroud. The air thickens, heavy with anticipation and the sharp tang of impending change. The sea's rhythm remains steady beneath your feet, relentless and unforgiving, but now it hums with a new note, a subtle urgency threading through the endless pulse. Your eyes flick to the horizon, where the first timid colors of dawn stain the sky with muted pinks and washed-out golds. The distant cries of seabirds slice through the quiet, their songs broken and sparse like fractured glass. The dogs barking on the distant shore has long since fallen silent, swallowed by the growing stillness. All around you, the sea holds its breath, waiting alongside you, a vast and merciless witness to what comes next. The shadowed figure shifts, a slow movement that barely stirs the heavy air. Their hand rises, gloved and deliberate, toward a coiled rope stretched taut beside them. The tension threads tighter in your chest, a slow, heavy drumbeat matching the measured creak of your own boat beneath the relentless sway. The salty wind carries a hint of something untold, an unspoken warning stitched into the fabric of the morning. As they pull the line, a faint glimmer catches the emerging light, a flash of the creeping edge of dread. The harpoon's polished tip reflects that moment, a silent beacon amid the slow unfolding. Time fractures then, every second thick with the gravity of choice and consequence. Weighted like the salt-encrusted ropes coiling beneath your fingers. You shift your stance, slowly, boots pressing against the damp wood where grains of salt cling stubbornly like tiny crystals. But gentle squeak of the hull protests softly underfoot. Part of the endless ballet between the sea and your fragile refuge. Your calloused palms brush the rope again, feeling its coarse weave, imprinting the story of countless storms survived and battles narrowly escaped. The smaller vessel edges closer still, its hull skimming the water with an eerie grace that belies the danger it carries. Each detail sharpens under the cold light, the worn dampness of sails furled against the morning breeze, the subtle gleam of iron fixtures rusted yet resilient, the tireless cry of distant gulls circling endlessly above the indifferent waves. Somewhere beneath the deck, a soft shuffle draws your ear, the subtle motion of a crewmate whose anxiety mirrors your own. Their breaths steady yet shallow, the unspoken weight shared in the heavy silence that stretches between your two fragile worlds upon the vast blue. A tender warmth flickers briefly near the stern, the last ember of a small fire bravely resisting the morning chill. Its fragile glow dances like a whisper of life amid the cold expanse, a quiet defiance against the slow, dark tide closing in with patient hunger. Gaze back to the approaching boat and the figure framed so starkly against the tentative light. They move then, the hood pulling back just enough to reveal eyes bright and unreadable, glittering with a hard promise. The shift is subtle but undeniable, a signal layered in silence, carrying the weight of all that lies ahead, but not yet spoken aloud. The tension thickens, a slow coil wrapped tight around your nerves and muscles, held in place by breath and salt and waiting. Your hand tightens on the rope once more, the fibers burning into your palm in a rhythm that matches the steady pounding of your heart. The boat creaks in response, rising and falling with the unyielding pulse of the restless sea, as if the vessel itself senses the fragile moment poised on the brink of change. Then, without warning, the horizon fractures, an echo of movement far beyond the fragile ships. A pale figure emerges from the mists, unannounced, yet relentless, gliding forward on silent waves. The faint outline flickers at the edge of your vision, a whisper of intent that pierces the stillness deeper than any sound. The sea's calm surface breaks subtly beneath the looming shape. Ripples spiraling outward like breath exhaled with silent menace. Your breath catches, carried away on the wind, streaked with salt and smoke. For a long, suspended moment, all you can do is hold tight, feeling the weight of the moment stretch endlessly. The mystery of the approaching shadow folding into the cold dawn. And in that suspended silence, the figure at the helm shifts once more, lips parting just enough to let a single word slip into the salt and sea air, a low murmur, hanging heavy with perilous promise, and the dawn waits, poised on the edge of revelation. You watch the smaller boat drift closer, the water parting in silent ripples beneath its slender hull, each wave folding slowly. Into the next, like whispered secrets, the dawn's cool breath brushes your face, carrying the sharp scent of salt and distant ash, a reminder that battles still haunt these waters beyond memory. The faint metallic tang clings to the air around you, mixing with the musk of worn rope and tar. Your fingers, aching but resolute, tighten their weave around the rough strands, grounding you in the slow dance of the boat's creeping motion. The wooden planks beneath your boots creak with each subtle roll, a soft groan speaking of 1,000 moments like this, fragile balances between calm and sudden upheaval. Your eyes remain fixed on the figure at the helm, shrouded in a hood woven from shadows and early light. Their movements are deliberate but measured, like a predator stalking just beyond sight. The muted rustling of sails above you echoes the pulse of your heart. Steady, slow, relentless. A cool breeze stirs the salt-crusted ropes, coaxing a faint scent of rotten seaweed mingled with the sharp bite of iron. You can almost taste the coldness on your tongue and feel it seep through your bones. Every detail of the approaching craft etches itself deep into your senses. The frayed edges of the canvas, the dark glint of weathered wood, the quicksilver glimmer of the harpoon's blade, brushed by dawn's tentative glow resting near your side. Beneath deck, your crewmates whisper their nervous rhythms, the slight scrape of boots shifting in tight quarters, breath held a moment too long, the barely audible clink of metal tools set down with practiced care. Tension coils slowly between you all, stretching thick and tangible, as the morning fog that lingers just beyond the horizon. The sea's breath hushes, waiting, catching in the stillness. Like a held note, a sudden ripple breaks the quiet, faint but deliberate, as the smaller boat slips nearer. Your breath catches. The figure's gloved hand reaches out with patient precision toward the coiled line beside them. The rope trembles, taut with silent promise. You feel the acute sting of anticipation, a slow burning fire kindled beneath your skin. The horizon widens, but the sea feels narrower, pressing inward with the weight of 1,000 unspoken threats. Your palms burn where the rope cuts, a sharp reminder of everything you've endured. The salt granules, embedded like tiny shards, cutting into your skin with every measured tug. The rough fibers kiss the calluses, a rhythm your body knows by heart, the endless pulse of survival locking you in place. The figure's hood shifts, revealing a fragment of face framed by wet strands that the sea breeze moves. Like faded silk, their eyes catch the harboring light, glinting with a strange mix of weariness and resolve. A silent challenge exchanged across the water. In that gaze, you see the fragile dividing line between enemy and ally, friend and stranger, danger and relief. The tension draws taut again, a slow tightening coil that threatens to unravel the very air you breathe. Behind you, the faint scent of burning wood drifts softly from the dying ember near the stern. A warm flicker amid the cold morning, a fragile beacon resisting the relentless chill. The faint crackle of dying fuel carries with it a hint of hope, a whisper that despite the looming threat, life endures in glimmers. Your fingers brush again the polished shaft of the harpoon, the cool steel luring your breath into slow, steady inhales. The worn leather wrapped around the handle slips like silk beneath your fingertips, a small comfort in the creeping uncertainty. Time itself seems to dissolve, each second stretching wide, like endless ocean waves breaking softly on a distant shore. The water rocks gently beneath your feet, its pulse matching the slow beat of your heart, carried by the rhythmic song of the creaking timber. A distant cry pierces the dawn, a solitary gull's call, sharp and sudden, fracturing the stillness like broken glass. Somewhere far off, the bark of a dog rises and falls in uncertain stutters, swallowed quickly by the vast silence. The air prickles thick with a charged hush, the world's breath held, not by calm, but by waiting for a moment yet to come. You hear the faint scrape of a rope pulled taut, the subtle shift of weight as the smaller vessel edges closer, ever closer. The figure's hand, tightening on the line, sends a ripple through your own limbs, a muted resonance that snaps your gaze back to the frail barrier between you. Your mind traces the slow dance of possible outcomes with a numb precision. Pull tight with every fiber of your being. The ropes scrape harsh against your knuckles. The rope's salt-encrusted grip, the only certainty in the shifting morning. A faint whisper slips past the lips of the shadowed figure, carried immediately away on the salt-tinged breeze. A single, weighty word that balances on the edge of sound and silence. It hangs, drifting like a feather, caught between the past and what lies ahead. Your breath stalls, the moment frozen sharp and bright beneath the pale sun climbing steadily higher. You feel the fragile boat lean again, the relentless ocean pressing against it, pushing and pulling in the eternal rhythm you've come to know so intimately. The dark figure leans forward, less a threat than a promise, one that will either cut through the fragile calm or shatter it entirely. The cold sting of the rope burns deeper, your knuckles whitening as you prepare for what this approaching tide will bring. And just as the shadow stretches against the waning light, a sharp movement below deck, a hurried shuffle, a sudden stillness, reminds you the sea holds more secrets than the horizon reveals, and the next wave will not wait for your answer. You watch the smaller boat hover just beyond reach, its hull cutting fragile lines through the slate-colored water as the dawn spills and fades across the horizon. The light is a hesitant wash, pale blues melting into grays, softly blurring the edges of things, folding you deeper into the quiet tension that presses around your skin. Your fingers curl tighter around the coarse rope, the strands biting through the salt-encrusted calluses, threading a sharp, burning rhythm along your limbs. The air holds the thick perfume of sea salt mingled with smoldering ash, a lingering trace of battles, lost and silence kept beneath the waves. The wooden planks beneath your boots shift with a slow, creaking groan as the boat rocks again, caught between the push of the tides and the yawning stillness of the sky. Each motion feels ancient, a slow pulse breathing beneath the surface of your bones. You shift your weight carefully, boots dull against damp wood, leaving faint prints smeared with salt and grit. The faint scratch of rope fibers against your skin pulls your senses sharper, grounding you to this endless dance. From the shadowed bow of the smaller craft, the figure leans slightly forward, their dark hood barely shifting in the breeze. The glimmer of steel catches the pale light for a single breath, a small glint of cold gleaming like a shard of winter frost. You watch, locked eyes, unreadable, sharp and tired alike, whispering the language of old wars and long waits. Your breath catches, fragile and slow, folding in with the steady creak of ropes and the distant murmur of restless seabirds. The air tastes of salt and old smoke, a metallic tang slipping beneath the salt's edge like a warning whispered softly across worn skins. Around you, the soft sounds of your crewmates float up from below deck, a chorus of shifting weight and muted breaths pressed through fear's tight veil. Each breath on the boat echoes your own, measured, slow, heavy with the anticipation you can neither reach nor release. Your thoughts blur and drift like distant fog, anchored only by the persistent weight of this moment. Your hands return again to the worn harpoon lying nearby, its wood familiar and worn smooth by countless nights like this one. Fingers drag slowly across its polished steel, drawing a chill deep into your veins. The leather wrap whispers beneath your touch, a steady rhythm matching the muted throb beat of your heart. Above, the sails strain gently against the breeze, canvas creaking softly as the boat breathes in endless time. The sky fades further from blue to ash, streaked with tentative streaks of pink as dawn edges its way across the merciless sea. The shadow beside you shifts, drawing nearer piece by piece, every inch measured and deliberate, a silent promise edged with all the quiet violence that the world has learned to hold at bay. A faint, ragged call cuts the dawn, a solitary gull, its cry fracturing the stillness with a sharp crack like breaking glass. Somewhere, far off, the distant bark of a dog drifts faintly, swallowed quickly by the sea's heavy silence. The coast remains hidden behind a haze, its secrets folded tight beneath cover of mist and shadow. The dogs have ceased their restless noise long ago, as if the sea itself has hushed the land. You feel the tension coil slowly in your chest, a cold tightness crawling along your spine as the smaller boat's prow inches a whisper closer. The figure's gloves tighten on a taut rope, pulling slow and steady, sending shivers through the air like a thread pulled tight against fate. The salty grip of coarse rope bites deeper, fingering memories into your skin. The endless repetition of haul, release, brace, survive. The moment expands, stretching wide like a breath held deep beneath water. The figure tilts their hood back, a glimpse of a face framed by damp strands, pale, weary, marked with quiet resolve. Those eyes catch the flickering dawn with a flicker of something unreadable. Promise or peril folded tight beneath a steel-hard gaze. You hold their look without blinking, feeling the silent weight between worlds, pressing ever closer. The flickering ember of the small fire near the stern pulses faint warmth, its glow a fragile sigh resisting the chill bite of the air. The faint crackling whispers against the silence, a soft heartbeat of life amidst the merciless morning. You take in the scent of wet wood, cold ash, and briny spray tangled in the slow rhythm of the sea. Your hands return to your harpoon once more, tracing the cool metal, the familiar heft steadying the restless edge within. Time itself unwinds and coils in the vast blue around you. Moments bleeding softly into one another, like waves washing tenderly ashore. The boat rocks beneath you, the creaking timber humming with the endless song of survival. A faint breeze threads through the rigging, lifting a cool rush of salt and tar, mixed with the distant, lingering sting of gunpowder. Ghosts burned into the memory of this vast, merciless ocean. Somewhere beneath deck, whispered rustles echo the shared breath of your crewmates. Silent prayers woven into the fragile hush. The figure at the helm moves slowly again, shifting their weight with the deliberate grace of unfinished business. Their hand lifts, fingers closing tightly on the taut line coiled beside them, the rope humming low like a final warning. The last fragile thread that holds this morning's silence taut begins to vibrate, trembling with the promise of crossing beyond stillness into action. The sea watches on, endless and uncaring, each wave folding into the next, like a slow, unyielding tide of patience and power. Your gaze stays locked on the shadow figure as the distance narrows to a fragile breath. The glint of their eyes flickers once more, hard and quiet beneath the hood. Then their lips part, releasing a single word into the cold air, barely a whisper, but heavy as the coming storm. The sound melts into the salt wind, swelling into the endless pulse of the sea itself. The dawn holds its breath, waiting for the silence to break. You feel the boat sway beneath you once more, a slow, deliberate leaning that rocks your tired frame with the sea's steady breath. The wood murmurs softly under your boots, each creak a gentle reminder of the fragile world you balance upon. Fingers tightening around the rough rope, you can sense the salt nestle deep within its coarse twists, scratching against your skin like a whisper from the ocean itself. Your gaze remains locked on the figure in the smaller boat, now close enough to make out the faintest outlines beneath the hood. Their movements are measured, almost cautious, as if weighed down by secrets carried in silent tides. That single word they breathed into the morning air lingers like a shadow, rolling slowly across your thoughts, soaked in promise, or perhaps warning. The rise of the sun is hesitant, a pale glow spreading cool and washed out, stretching like thin cloth across the gray waves. You inhale the sharp taste of salt mixed with the distant smoke, memories from battles long past, still burning faintly in the corners of your senses. The rope pulses beneath your calloused palms, a rhythm that binds you to this moment of uncertain calm. Around you, the crewmates remain quiet, wrapped in the fragile stillness below deck. Their breaths are soft, steady but strained, an echo of the tension that coils tight in your own chest. Outside, seabirds wheel and cry far overhead, their distant calls slicing thin and sharp through the heavy silence. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the faint murmur of waves gives way to the subtle ripples that mark the approaching smaller vessel's slow, deliberate progress. Your hands trace the harpoon's smooth shaft again, the polished wood warm where your skin presses close. The steel glints dimly, a cold, steady weight shaped by time and necessity. The familiar texture grounds you, slows the storm of nerves weaving through your limbs. The leather wrapping whispers a soft rhythm beneath your fingers, a fragile anchor to the present as memories hum faintly in the salt-laden breeze. The smaller boat drifts closer still, its prow parting the water in gentle, deliberate ripples. Every inch of space between you shrinks, folding the world into a narrow corridor of anticipation. The hooded figure's eyes catch the fragile light, sharp and unreadable pools that flicker with quiet determination. Something unspoken hums in the air, a faint current that twists and turns beneath the heavy calm. You shift your weight slowly, feeling the damp wood slick beneath your boots, a cool, sticky grip with every measured step. The sea breathes endlessly around you, a timeless pulse that speaks in creaks, whispers, and the soft sighing of sails. The ropes hum their steady song, every fiber rubbed into your skin that matches the tick of rising dread. There is a faint stir below deck, a soft scrape and shift, the subtle movements of your crewmates tense with shared unease. The ember near the stern flickers uncertainly in the pale dawn, its dying glow a weak sigh of life battling the encroaching chill. The scent of smoke trails gently, touched with something bittersweet, hope wrapped tightly in the fading warmth. Your fingers brush the harpoon again, tracing the cool steel carefully, the practiced routine steadying your breath. Time stretches long and lazy, folding moments into one another. The boat rocks gently beneath your weight, each swell a soft swell in the ocean's endless song. The sails above catch the light breeze, their canvas rustling with slow creaks that lull and warn at once. A distant gull cries, sharp and solitary, fracturing the dawn's quiet veil. The faint, distant bark of dogs, once restless through the night, has fallen silent. The shore beyond shimmers faint through mist and shadow, holding its secrets close beneath the fading haze. The quiet is a living thing here, woven tight with the salt and the cold and the slow, patient watchfulness weighing on your skin. The figure leans forward, pulling slowly at the coiled rope beside them. The water parts softly as the smaller vessel edges closer, a silent thread unraveling between safety and threat. Your breath catches, each inhalation tasting fiercely of ocean spray and shadowed histories. Your knuckles whiten on the rough fibers, the sting a sharp, steady anchor against the swelling tide of tension. Eyes meet again, the quiet exchange sharp as a blade. Weariness and resolve woven tightly into that unyielding gaze. The fragile boundary between stranger and threat ends with each measured breath. The ember flickers low, a dying pulse, while the boat shifts beneath you, swaying lightly as if hovering on the edge of something vast and unspoken. A sudden breeze threads the rigging, scented faintly with tar and rust and the lingering bitterness of gunpowder. A ghost song of past fury that clings to the edges of the morning. The sea seems to hold its breath, its endless rhythm grinding slowly beneath the hulls like a soft, unforgiving chant. The world tilts in delicate balance as the figure's hand tightens on the line once more. Then, just as your muscles tense to respond, the horizon fractures quietly, a pale figure slipping silently from the mists beyond. The water breaks beneath them in soft spirals, rippling like whispered truths caught in the current's fold. Your heart thunders in measured time with the ocean's pulse, the fragile world narrowing to the slender silhouette nearing the absorbing shadow of the approaching vessel. The word spoken slips again, barely a breath, but knotted thick with the weight of what is to come. The dawn waits, the sea's endless pulse paused in the balance, caught between silence and the slow, certain fall of night beyond. You clutch the rope tighter, the rough strands biting through your skin as the figure at the helm leans forward once more, eyes hard, cold, and unrelenting, ready at last to cross from shadow into the fragile waking world. You feel the boat's slow sway deepen beneath your feet, a careful dance between wood and tide that tests your balance with gentle insistence. The ropes press cold and stinging into your palms, their salted fibers scratching familiar patterns against your skin, worn by countless days like this. 1. The slender waves ripple around the hull, each crest casting dark shadows that dissolve as quickly as they form. The morning light is dim, filtered through a haze softening the edges of everything, painting the sea in muted shades of slate and steel. Your eyes remain fixed on the smaller boat, inching closer through the mist, its dark shape moving with quiet precision, like a creature slipping through water. The figure at the helm shifts slightly, the hood slipping to reveal a flattening of lips, taut with barely concealed resolve. You trace the taut line coiled beside them, the rope shining slick and damp in the cold air, a thread pulling between your worlds as relentless as the tide itself. The sound of the boat creaking beneath your boots matches the steady rhythm of your breath, slow, deliberate, bracing against the weight building, like fog within your chest. Every scrape of rope fiber against your fingers feels amplified, sharp as the distant cry of a solitary seabird breaking through the shroud of dawn. Somewhere below, your crewmates move with quiet urgency, their movements small ripples beneath the heavy silence. You shift your weight again, wooden planks groaning beneath your boots in muted protest. The salt spray clings cold to your skin, a biting contrast to the sun's hesitant promise burning at your back. The faint scent of old smoke still lingers, weaving into the sea breezes like a ghost thread. Your fingers tighten their grip on the harpoon resting near your side, its smooth wood and cool metal a steady anchor as the world narrows to this converging moment. The smaller boat glides nearer, water parting in whispered ripples that fade almost as soon as they appear. The mist swirls, revealing glimmers of rusted iron accents, frayed canvas taut over aching timbers, and eyes sharp with a cautious watchfulness. The figure's movements are measured, deliberate, slow pulls on the rope, faint adjustments to the sails, each motion magnified by the tense quiet hanging between you. You inhale slowly, the breath tasting of salt and tar, a faint bitterness threading beneath the edge of the morning. The boat beneath you creaks again, the noise soft and mournful, a timeless sigh carried on the sea's endless pulse. A distant gull cries once more, sharp and high, splitting the stillness like a fragile mirror shattered into starlight fragments. Somewhere far beyond, the coast remains veiled in gray mist, unseen, but looming with silent watchfulness. Your hands return to the coarse rope. And memory, you feel the faint tremor beneath your fingertips, a subtle warning whispered through the strands. The figure's eyes flicker toward you again, unyielding and unreadable pools staring from beneath the dark hood. The moment stretches thin, poised between breath and silence, held taut like the vessel's rigging in the rising breeze. The ember near the stern flutters weakly, the fading light flickering like a heartbeat amid the cold morning chill. Its slender warmth creeps faintly, soft as a fading sigh, reaching toward you across the creaking deck's expanse. The scent of wet wood and smoldering ash wraps quietly around your senses, weaving a fragile tapestry of brief comfort beneath the weight of impending choice. A gentle breeze lifts the canvas sails above, their slow creaks blending into the symphony of the sea's eternal song. The ropes hum softly under your touch, each coarse thread alive with salt, sweat, and time. Their familiar sting, a slow, steady pulsing that mirrors the steady thud of your heart within your chest. You brush your fingers against the harpoon once more, seeking its cold reassurance. The smooth steel glinting faintly in the diffuse light feels like the promise of safety carved from shadow. The figure's hand tightens on the line again, slow and deliberate, the rope singing a gentle tension that ripples across the water's glassy surface. Your eyes follow every minute motion, the shifting weight, the faint flecks of muscles beneath worn gloves, the careful glance cast toward your own vessel. The sea around you holds its breath, a vast expanse of endless gray, folding and unfolding like waves of quiet threat. Beneath the deck, a whispered stir passes among your crewmates, faint echoes of movements, barely audible over the soft creaks and groans of the wooden frame. The air feels dense, as if the invisible knot of tension is drawing tighter, threading through everyone suspended in this fragile stillness. You sense it in the slow hardening of your limbs, in the sharpening of every sense tuned to the unspoken language of survival. Then, the figure leans forward just enough for their face to emerge briefly from shadow. The lines worn, the eyes bright, with a hard fire that freezes your blood with sudden recognition. That single word, spoken barely above a breath, drifts to your ears like the faintest ripple carried on the sea breeze, impossible to grasp, but heavier than the weight of the rising sun. It settles in the space between you, thick and dark, like oil spilled across quiet water. Your breaths come slow and shallow, the rope pressing unforgiving against skin that has learned the sharpness of pain. You can sense the sea itself watching, the waves curling gently as if to shield this fragile moment before the inevitable unfolding. The boat sways beneath you once more, wood whispering ancient secrets, the slow grind of salt and timber threading through your veins. The shadowed figure straightens, pulling sharply at the rope, too slow for sudden panic, too deliberate to be anything less than a warning. The distance between worlds shrinks, the silent gap bled away by the steady drum of hearts and shifting waves. The horizon is alive with stirring colors now, washed in a pale pink that promises light, swallowing the gathering dark. You meet the figure's gaze again, a locked breath between foe and friend, a fragile balance bristling with unspoken stories. The pulse of tension coils tighter, a slow, relentless spiral that tightens your chest with cold insistence. The faint glow of the dying ember flickers once, then fades, a single thread of warmth snuffed out under the vast gray sky. And just as the first fragile shapes of the shore begin to emerge from the shifting haze, a quiet splash breaks the calm, not far, but unseen. A subtle shudder running through the sea's skin. You lift your gaze, heart thinning to a sharp edge, breath caught between hope and dread, as the silhouette of another shadow rises quietly from beneath the waves. You hold the rope steady as the smaller boat glides to a halt just alongside yours, the water murmuring softly against the hulls, a whisper exchanged in the dawn's pale light. The tension that stretched long and thin through your limbs finally loosens, releasing a breath you didn't realize you'd been holding. The figure in the hood leans forward, lifting the fabric just enough to reveal eyes full of quiet resolve, not menace, a flicker of something familiar flickering beneath their guarded gaze. For a moment, words are unnecessary. The sea breathes around you both, the endless rhythm now softened by a fragile truce. The heavy air, once dense with expectation, begins to clear, carrying away the sharp tang of old smoke and salt. The ropes under your hands feel less like chains and more like threads weaving fate anew as the first warm rays of sun spill over the horizon, washing the skies with gentle amber hues. Your crewmates rise slowly from below deck, faces lined with fatigue and relief, eyes meeting yours with subtle nods that speak of battles lived and survived. The small fire near the stern flares briefly, casting steady light on the weathered boards, as if the morning itself wanted to bless this fragile piece. The sharp edge of fear dulls to a quiet ache, replaced by the heavy comfort of shared survival. The figure reaches out, hand steady and sure, clasping your forearm in a firm grip. No words are spoken, none need be, yet the gesture folds countless stories into that single contact. Resolve, apology, promise. You sense that this meeting, born from shadow and silence, marks not an end, but a beginning, a fragile thread spun against the chaotic sea. Slowly, the smaller boat's occupant eases aboard, the boards creaking faintly beneath new weight. Their hood falls back fully, brushing damp hair from a face weathered by storms and solitude. You catch the faintest smile, as fleeting as a seabird's cry, before the breeze swallows it. It carries a quiet relief, the kind that comes, not from grand victories, but from simply making it through the night. Together, you scan the horizon where the sea meets sky. No longer a line of impending threat, it becomes a ribbon of hope, stretched wide and patient. The distant calls of seabirds swell softly again, cutting through the residual stillness like a delicate song of dawn. The dogs barking remain silent, the shore waiting quietly as tides of change wash gently ashore. Your grip on the rope softens, the rough fibers now familiar friends rather than biting adversaries. The harpoon rests secure at your side, unused but ready, its weight a steadying reminder of the odd comfort found in preparation. The salty breeze brushes your face, cooling the sting left by long hours spent on watch. carrying with it the subtle scent of blossoming trees from distant lands, promising renewal beyond the endless water. The sun rises steadily, the warmth seeping into your bones and chasing away the lingering chill of the night's uncertainty. The boat creaks a welcome rhythm beneath your boots, rocking gently with the wake of a new day. Around you, the crew moves quietly now, a soft ballet of tentative trust and shared purpose, hands brushing ropes and sails with careful reverence. Slowly, the sea's harsh pulse softens to a calm lullaby. The endless waves, whispering secrets you now recognize, not as warnings, but as part of the greater journey. Cycles of loss and renewal, danger and deliverance, solitude and companionship. The horizon stretches open, unburdened by shadow or fear, glowing faintly like a promise kept in the deepest layers of the ocean. For a brief moment, you close your eyes and breathe in the salt air fully, letting the waves' rhythm match the steady beat of your heart. The exhaustion nestled deep in your bones begins to melt away, replaced by a quiet peace, the sort that comes when a long night finds its dawn. The fragile ember of the hearth flickers low but steady, a lullaby sung in firelight to the waking world. As the figure at your side settles in with the crew, the gentle murmur of conversation rises softly, a balm to the years spent in silence and vigilance. You watch their lips move with stories yet told, voices weaving anew the tapestry of shared fate. Somewhere distant, a gull calls out, its sharp note cutting through the morning haze, a final punctuation in the poem of survival. The sea rolls on indifferently, vast and unyielding, but today it carries the scent of something lighter, a thread of hope spun into the endless blue. The ropes rest slack beneath your hands, and the boat sways with quiet certainty, floating now, not on fear, but on the fragile promise of tomorrow. You find your gaze drifting to the horizon once more, where sky and sea meet in golden embrace. The pain, the terror, the endless watchfulness, all fold softly into the past, like footprints washed away by the tide. Here, at last, there is rest, and as the light spills warmly over the waves, you lean back against the mast, letting the slow rocking lull your tired senses. The salty breeze hums a gentle song in your ears, a sleepy lullaby born of the ocean's eternal pulse. The dawn holds you close now, wrapped in its quiet grace. Sleep begins to brush your eyelids, soft as the first kiss of morning light. And the story, finally, finds its peace,